TTB Music Podcast.
Rewind.
Right.
Yeah, apparently we're back again.
Oh God, are we on?
Yeah.
Blimey, this is too much.
See, it's amazing. This is so hard to kind of, like you say, like you said last time, to try to remember what we used to do and actually be professional and... Actually, no, wait. No, we were never professional.
No, we never did that.
No, but, you know, kind of be totally prepared and...
Blimey. Okay.
Cues and all that.
Cues and, yeah. Right. Intros. Right.
Yeah.
Scripted. No. Anyway.
Four albums.
more?
4 albums we've got. 4 albums that the critics, them critics, not us obviously,
No.
need to wait to find out what we think,
Yeah.
but the critics, en masse,
En masse.
have liked it for various reasons. So, Dave, Psychodrama, Fountains DC, Dogrel, Baroness, Golden Grey, and Weyes, Blood, Titanic Rising. No idea how you pronounce it.
I go
Yeah.
Weyes.
Think it's fair to say before we start, think we're covering most of the bases musically on this podcast.
We're definitely covering most of the basic music here.
Yeah,
Good grief.
we will get to it. But it's safe to say that this is quite a varied bunch
It's a
we've
good
got here.
one. Yeah.
Yeah. So, we are going to start with Dave and Psychodrama. And critics, or at least one critic at least, has said one of the most thoughtful, moving and necessary albums of 2019 so far.
Wow.
Anyway, it's a debut album. It is of the rap genre. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's not. Well, it is, and it's not. And it is. It's not.
It is not. It's not.
Yeah. Anyway, Peter. Psychodrama.
Right. Psychodrama.
Are the critics right?
Yes.
The end. Okay, moving on to the next one. That's it.
Tis one of the most thoughtful, moving and necessary albums, bearing in mind we've not listened to many this year so far, that we have listened to so far this year. It's I love the interesting hook. We had a couple of these last time around on podcast 2. Of the sort of the theme, the sort of kept coming back to this. Dave in the chaise longue in a therapy's, what's the word I'm looking at? Counsellor's office.
I thought it was a bit naff.
Yeah, I quite, because so many albums, particularly rap albums, particularly, it's more an American thing, I think, to do the skit. And I'm thinking of it. I'm thinking about Eminem and 50 Cent and all that. It's sort of the sort of the skit element that sort of links it all together. And true, it sounded more genuine to begin with and did get a little bit naffer as it went on. But that's until we get to that track, which I'll come to. You know the one.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess what it as a debut album, he really gets to set out his manifesto. You have Psycho and Streatham, which are loud and brash and straight from the trap there. You have Purple Heart, which takes it in a slightly different direction, and then you have the visceral Leslie, which sort of brings it all together, and it is a real psychodrama.
Indeed, yes.
Story within
very Scroobius Pippish-esque.
Yes, very. It's once or twice I was reminded of old Pip a couple of times in the sort of the way that Dave conveys a good telling of a good narrative. He manages to sort of talk about what it means to be black, what it means in terms of identity, that corner of South London, what it means to get away from that, what it means to embrace it. And ultimately what it means to want to be famous and then be famous or be loved. And at one point in the middle of the record, he sort of when he's doing what we can only describe on this podcast as a Drake and tearing it all down. He does sort of say in the middle of it all, and without the fans, I love you all, and I just want to be able to keep going. I mean, sort of the energy of the live performance is there.
Yeah.
So for me, I found it at times. I found it throughout a really enjoyable album, and at times I found it quite thought provoking and disturbing as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think like the original Stormzy record and stuff like that. I think it's an album where it kind of addresses to a certain degree the whole concept of kind of self and mental well-being, in a more kind of general thing, and how you actually respond to things in life. As you say, it is very raw and visceral at times, but it is ultimately for me a very engaging and confident exploration of the self, if you like, and in the mind of a young man whose older brothers are both in prison, but he was the kind of, partly because his mom forced him to, the kind of studious son.
Yeah.
Should not say he didn't get into any trouble, but it's a thing, and there's the whole thing about when this happened, when your dad's gone and then your brothers have gone on that you have to be, like, this thing of you have to be the man, you have to start earning some money to bring in to feed your family and support your family, all that kind of thing, which I think is dealt with particularly on Screwface Capital. I also liked Environment towards the end of the album, where there's this great line, I think I've written down to somewhere, it is, you see our gold chains and our flashy cars, I see a lack of self-worth, and I see battle scars. He who has to be with 20 man when he wears jewellery, and all you see is a gangster, I see it as insecurity. I mean, I kind of like that kind of thing that he's not trying to excuse things, but he's trying to say that, like anything else, just you see what you want to see. You don't necessarily see the truth, which is quite often the way in life. As we find out, people that are quite often the loudest, and even at schools, most troublemakers, if you like, are not necessarily all bad. It's there's light and dark in everyone.
Gee.
Yeah.
You did provoke your thoughts, didn't it?
Yeah. But as you say, Leslie is 11 minutes, but it's really
good.
Great story, well told.
Yeah. I think you have that nice coda at the end as well.
Yeah. I think some people find it a bit kind of over the top. I can see why you might, but for me, it kind of worked. And as you say, it's 51 minutes long. It could have been shorter, but it still manages to just avoid overstaying its welcome and reaching the point where you're thinking, we should stop now.
Yeah.
I should say the bits that didn't work for me are the bits in the middle where he kind of basically, as you say, becomes a mainstream American artist. Because there are two tracks in the middle that are basically that, and it's great, Location Disaster. I'm not saying either of them are bad tracks, but that's when it fell into, okay, this could be one of 1,000 people doing this track. And whilst it shows that he's capable of doing lots of things, and he can, by all accounts, including sing quite well, play piano quite well, in fact, like the piano beats and thing.
Piano is interesting.
Yeah.
Piano.
I think where he's a bit more raw, works good.
Yeah. Agree.
Moving from that to an album that's been described as post-punk and various other things, by Fountains DC from Dublin, Dogrel. Critics said of this, an album of tremendous ardour and vivid landscapes, and interspersed with an Irish underdog spirit. Indeedy. This album starts with a song called Big, which is short, and 2 minutes. In fact, the first two songs on the album are
short.
Are quite short. But I do like the opening couplet of Big. which is Dublin in the Rain is Mine, a pregnant city with a Catholic mind.
Yeah.
Which I do think kind of immediately sets the kind of scene in a way for the album, and the theme of that track of being, my childhood was small, but I'm going to be big.
Yeah.
Which is kind of played out over a kind of Strokes-esque kind of musical beat, but with a bit of the kind of Johnny Rotten kind of snarl in the kind of delivery, which kind of continues a bit into the second track of Sha Sha Sha. And at this point I was thinking, if we just got another band who are just basically wannabe Strokes cover band that are kind of, fine, whatever. But then we get onto track 3 with Too Real, and track 4, Television Screens, and track 5, Hurricane Laughter, and suddenly something truly magic happens, and you suddenly realise that actually, no, it's not just another Strokes cover band, because suddenly you're hearing Squeeze, the Sex Pistols, early Joy Division, Nirvana, the Smiths, and towards the end of the album, Pogues, and even, dare I say, towards the end of the album, a bit of Shawady Waddy. Yeah. What I mean here is not that they sound anything like Shawady Waddy, but there's that, particularly in the drumming, there's that 60s early rock and roll Teddy Boy drum beat style going on in a couple of the tracks that was used quite readily by people like Shawady Waddy. And this is just a really great record. Because as good as the first 4 tracks are, where it really kicks in is, for me at least, is Hurricane Laughter, which is just... I sat there and kind of went, this is what I want. Yeah. And from there on, it's, for me, near perfection. Roy's a nice gentle pop tune, with hints of the Smiths, and then you've got the Lots, Check It Reckless, and then you move on towards the end of the album where you've got a big rock jam of kind of like Boys in the Better Land, which is another great kind of rocky tune, and then you have the very kind of Pogues ode to Dublin kind of thing with Dublin City Sky at the kind of end. You could quite rightly say, I think, that lead singer, I think his name is Brian Chatton, not the best vocalist in the world.
No,
certainly comes from. I kind of thought of him in the kind of Irish version of kind of Dave Gedge, wedding present kind of thing. But it works. The album lasts 40 minutes. Proper album, therefore, as far as I'm concerned. Loved it.
Yeah. Agree. Again, really like the first couple of tracks because of that sort of ability to twist the rhyme, twist the lyrics, and do something quite entertaining. You bet. For me, it does begin track 5, track 6, Hurricane Laughter, followed by Roy's tune.
Yeah,
because you get the blistering sort of movement and rock of Hurricane Laughter was brilliant, and then you get Roy's tune at complete contrast.
Yeah,
and it really changes the album, and you think, it all sort of falls into place, which is great. You mentioned Joy Division.
Early Joy Division,
early sort of Peter Hook style guitar, particularly on television screens, and one or two others as well. He remind me of as well. Marky Smith, The Fall, post-punk.
Yes,
just the sort of way.
I hadn't thought that. But
the way he sort of told the story on some of the tracks. Not everyone, but I got a real sort of Fall vibe.
No, I think that's more than valid.
So again, sort of fits within that period, I guess. Really good all the way. I really like the lyrics. It's sort of very sort of pushes the sort of the poetry of the sort of rhyming of the lyrics out front quite early on.
Yes.
Then sort of it almost takes a back seat, and then, as you say, towards the end, he pushes it forward again. The track in particular, Boys in the Better Land, sort of the story. I really like the rhyming, spits out, Brits out. Sorry, that made me chuckle. It's just the way that sort of drops in there. It's sort of visceral, of telling a story of a guy. No, I really liked it. Really, really liked this album a lot.
Hey, good indie album.
Good indie album.
Only waited 10 years. Moving on from indie to rock.
Is that it? We don't get any more indie albums now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have the fifth album from a American heavy metal hard rock band called Baroness.
Oh yeah.
Golden Grey. Critics have said of this, by trying to annihilate what's gone before and truly raise themselves higher, they've created a special record with a depth that will have you under its spell a decade from now.
No. And you know how we like our metal.
Yeah. But how we like our metal is...
You know how I always surprise you with my love of metal.
Yeah.
So no, not quite. It's an interesting one, this, because
on the prog side of
it is on the progress side. It does rock. Oh, for sure, it does rock. I mean, it opens.
Yeah, the first half of the album.
First half of the album, in particular, Front Towards the Enemy is real rock. Oh God, I can't do that again. And so I get that, but then there's this kind of, and normally I like it when they do this, when the metalists when they do this, when they bring in the sort of psychedelia or the sort of Moby-esque ethereal landscape stuff. I'm normally a fan, because I'm always like, oh, I like it. That didn't quite sit with me, this one. I suppose there are a couple of exceptions. When you go from Anchor's Lament, which is an instrumental of that type, through to Throw Me an Anchor. See what they did there. That kind of worked. And the last couple of tracks, in particular Pale Sun, I really liked the last track.
I can't remember the last track.
Exactly. No, but I really like the last track. Seriously. So again, sometimes it worked, but I'm afraid most of the time it didn't. And there was another track as well quite early on where you got. I thought they were taking a break. And do you know what I thought? I thought the sort of softer lyrical style, which was a bit more indie, I actually thought worked really well. And then it just goes into sort of middle of the road rock again. I'm like, okay. Those are my thoughts.
Yeah. Boringly, for any listeners, I do tend to agree. I mean, I like the fact that, they're trying to pull in kind of pop, electronica, folk, prog rock stuff, all into one thing. I think that's a positive thing, and clearly there's some solid to very good musicianship on shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
As you say, it starts off well. Front Towards Enemy, I'm already going. I really like. Seasons, fine. Yeah. Tourniquet, I really like. Yeah. And I say into Anchor's Lament, which is fine. Yeah. But it kind of reminded me of. It was 2 or 3 years ago. We reviewed an album by Mastodon, which was also a similar type style of record.
Yeah. That wasn't the one that sounded like a Broadway musical, was it?
No. No, that was... and I was thinking about that. I was thinking, I had to look at what I said about that, and I was thinking, I think I liked that album better. It was more of a cohesive record. My problem with this record... it's an hour, and it feels like an hour. Yeah. Also, I found this. I have genuinely listened to this album three times. And I didn't think I'd get through it 3 times, because after the first couple of times I was thinking I don't really need to listen to it again. But I thought, no, I've got time. I'll give it another listen. And then it occurred to me halfway through the third listen, which was yesterday, what my problem was. Well, I had 2 problems with it. One, I kind of thought, basically, I'm listening to Keane. And this explains why I'm so bored. And 2, I was thinking, clearly I mixed this album. Because it sounds fucking awful.
You mean like the podcast?
Exactly, yeah. Seriously, this was produced and mixed by Dave Fridman, who has worked with Mercury Rev, Flaming Lips, and MGMT. But I've got C90s that are recorded tape to tape 30 years ago that sound clearer and crisper than this record. It sounds like it was.
Maybe that's it. Maybe I'm picking up on that. Yeah.
So I'm thinking maybe it is the album that will have me under its spell a decade from now, when the remix, when the remix and remastered version of it comes out, when I kind of go, that's what I was missing.
Yeah.
Actually, it's a work of genius.
Yeah.
But on this basis, it's not. No. And most of the people that it has a Metacritic score of 91.
How?
They're wrong.
Yeah.
Sorry,
critics.
Yeah. Anywho, sublime to ridiculous. We now go on to what can best be described as. Actually, this is quite hard to describe this album. Actually, in many ways, it's kind of a 60s, 70s throwback album.
Yeah.
But that, at the same time, is kind of doing it an injustice. Well, the critics said about this, and I think actually bizarrely this is a very true statement in a lot of ways, which is to say, to genuinely appreciate this album, you need to sit with it and let it wash over you. And I think that is very, very
Quite
true
possibly.
of this record.
Yeah.
Weyes Blood is, I can't remember what the lady's name is, but she's just a solo artist, but goes by this thing. And what you've basically got on this record is somebody who has a huge love of late 60s, early 70s pop music, for want of a better word, but you need to be thinking Carpenters, Joni Mitchell, Leonard Cohen, that kind of thing. It starts off very much in that kind of vein where lots can change. Andromeda, very, very laid back, summary kind of things, and you are thinking that kind of Carpenter's kind of vibe. When you're thinking, oh, we've got a whole album of just this, and on first listen it kind of is, but then when you re-listen, you kind of think, actually no, it's not, because then you listen to songs like Every Day, which you could actually imagine Amy Mann doing. Mirror Forever, which has a very kind of Lana Del Rey kind of vibe going on it. Movies, which is Leonard Cohen meets Enya. And it starts, at least for me, it started to kind of get under my skin, and this was today on third listen, because I have to confess that the first two listens I was thinking a bit along the lines of Baroness, and I was thinking, no, not getting it.
Yeah.
Lots of people are saying it's great, and lots of people in various different methods. So going from Enemy to Mojo to Pitchfork to various, a wide variety of publications raving about this. I was thinking, no, I'm not sure I get this still. But on today's listen, when I was walking to work, it's suddenly the kind of layers of it suddenly started making sense to me, and the songs started living a bit more than they were before. So whilst I'm still not totally convinced, I'm convinced enough to know that I'm going to go back and give it another listen or two to see if it actually works for me or not.
Yeah. Likewise, I think I deserve to give this another listen. I mean, my own immediate thoughts are it's not really my cup of tea, as the female singer-songwriter style goes. But yeah, something very 70s, and I mean that in a great way. It's a throwback, but it works, and really sort of found that it was the more you listen to it, the more you let it, as you say, wash over you, the easier it was, or the more it was to engage with it, I should say. I really particularly like the track Something to Believe. I think for me that's when I started to get it. So you're like 4 or 5 tracks in at that point, and that's when it's all started to click. Because up until that point I was like, it's a bit middle of the road. I'm not really feeling this. But I think from that point onwards it clicked for me. And as you say, all those different sort of links to the past, to other great singer-songwriters, men and women. I thought it was, I thought that's what worked for the album. I probably should go back and listen again. I don't know if I will, but I probably should.
It's short enough.
It is definitely.
It's
short enough.
It's
yeah.
album length.
It is a proper album length.
Yeah, 42 minutes.
Yeah, which is fine, particularly when you're doing this.
Absolutely, yes.
As I'm reminded now that we're doing it again regularly.
Yeah, it's fair. My new rule is, you know, we're not reviewing anything that goes over an hour.
If it goes over an hour, forget it. Unless
Anymore.
it's spectacular.
Yeah. Unless it's from one of our
favourites.
Artists. Then, yeah.
Yeah, but Bowie's not releasing an album anytime soon. So,
Barry Manley.
Bowie.
Oh, Bowie. Well, you never know. He might be.
No, I've said that all along. No.
As we know, being dead just definitely doesn't stop people from releasing records.
I had the same discussion with my brother-in-law. It will not stop him. And on that note, we should pick a favourite before we go down a rabbit hole.
Well, I think it'll be unsurprising for most people listening to know that we're clearly going to pick one of the first two.
Yeah.
I am going to go for Fountains DC.
Yeah.
Purely because how much we've struggled to find indie albums
Yeah.
that we genuinely think are anything more than meh.
Yeah.
Which is no disservice to Dave's album, which I think is a very good record and will definitely appear in some top 10s, top 5s come the end of the year.
Yeah. And for that reason, I'm going to pick Dave. Although I agree with everything you said. Again.
I agree with Nick.
Outdated political reference.